Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of My Journey with Jesus. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm delighted that folks tune in and listen to my reflections on my journey with Jesus. My name is Dave Little. I am not a pastor or professional speaker. I am just a guy living in Madison, Wisconsin, and God has put it on my heart to use my YouTube channel to talk every week about my imperfect walk with Jesus and how we're all in this together and we can all learn from each other. And this week, our topic is going to be experiencing mentoring. We talked last week about the idea of mentoring and how Paul, Timothy, and Barnabas is the illustration that is often used, or grandmother, sister, daughter. We each should we each would really benefit from having a strong mentor in our lives to guide us and speak into our lives. A Paul type figure, a Barnabas type figure who is a fellow soldier, a co-worker, a peer that we have a committed Christian relationship to serve alongside one another, and a Timothy, a younger believer who is new to the faith and needs the wisdom and guidance of more experienced believers. This week, I'm going to spend some time talking about my own experiences in this area. Um, Not a whole lot of Bible drilling today, but just more me rambling about my personal experiences and how my experiences have taught me and maybe can be beneficial to others who watch. And first, I'd like to draw a distinction between the notion of mentors and role models. Mentoring is a structured, intentional relationship with a specific focus. Spiritual mentoring is one great example of that. There are professional mentoring programs in the business world. Certainly in the educational world. When I was teaching in medical school, I would be assigned a medical student who would follow me around and watch what I did and learn from me. And that was a formal, structured, intentional, mentored relationship. We see this in Jesus and how he related to Peter. That was very specific, very targeted, and very intentional. That Jesus and Peter walked together in that structured mentor-mentee relationship. Role modeling, on the other hand, is more widespread. It's, I think, less structured. It's more observational than formalized. When you look at how Jesus taught the masses, Jesus taught thousands of people at a time. There was no way he could have that really, really tight, close, focused mentoring relationship with 5,000 people on a hillside. But Jesus was still a model. His words and his deeds had an impact on everyone who encountered him. And role modeling is universal. We should seek to represent Christ to everyone we meet, even if we're not sitting down with them formally, going through the Word together, or that type of structured relationship. So there are mentors, there are role models. We're called upon to be both. And I have been blessed with some great role models and some great mentors along the way. The first person I ever looked up to as a Christian outside my own family, my own church, was my sixth grade teacher. His name was Mr. I. Mr. I was short for some longer name. I'm not even sure I can remember the full name, but everybody called him Mr. I. And he was my sixth grade teacher. And at that point in my life, I had anxiety about what the image of a Christian was like in society. That being a Christian meant you were wimpy, you were weak, you got walked on all the time, you just were kind of a doormat for the bigger and the badder and the bullies that you would come up against. And Mr. I was anything but a doormat. He was a man's man, probably 6'2", deep voice, broad shouldered, square jawed, just he was in the classroom and he was in control, and he commanded respect by his presence and by the way that he conducted classes. I really looked up to him as a picture of a virile man, and at the same time, he led class in prayer every morning. He led the Pledge of Allegiance. He did not make any efforts to conceal the fact that he was a Christian, and I found that very inspiring as a young boy to see such a big, strong, solid man who was such a presence and such a leader, and yet at the same time such a committed servant of Christ. It was like, yeah, you can be a Christian and be a real man. In high school, I had a music teacher who was also an outspoken Christian. He was a very intense guy. He certainly had his flaws, he had his warts, but in spite of his flaws and his warts, he wasn't going to make any pretense to hide the fact that he was a Christian. And he had a profound influence on my life, both in how he taught music, how he taught the Word. I had the opportunity to attend Bible studies that he led, and just his commitment to teaching and his commitment to excellence. And I learned a lot of life lessons from my high school music teacher, not just about music, not just about faith, but I think the biggest thing I learned from him was that if you put in the effort, if you put your hard work in and you commit to doing something, whether it be a musical number or a musical show. We did two very good Broadway stage musicals when I was a high school student, and it's astonishing to me that 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids could produce something of that quality. But that was a lesson I took in the rest of my life, that you didn't have to be as talented as a professional musician. If you were committed and you worked hard and you put yourself out there, you could do great things. And that inspiration carried me through medical school and lots of other challenges in life. So yeah, I was blessed with some great teachers who were role models and mentors until I hit medical school. And when I hit medical school, I didn't have an identifiable mentor, either as a peer role model or as a professional role model. And I think that was one of the big reasons why I battled with depression as a medical student. I kind of got lost in the pressures of what I was doing and the isolation and the loneliness because I didn't have a structured person or a relationship or any sort of resource to draw upon other than my own strength. And as a result of that, I burned out and spent the better part of my medical school career fighting depression. And that's really one of the big reasons why I chose in my career to go into teaching. I wanted to go into medical education to be that mentor, to be that person that medical students, residents, younger trainees could relate to and learn from, and be a model, not just as a physician, but as a spiritual leader. But yeah, the medical school years without a mentor or a role model were very, very difficult for me. And one of the big reasons why I ended up in medical education as a career path. Those are some of the role models I had, the teachers. In terms of personal mentors, several people stand out over the years. Certainly my mom and dad. I was blessed to be raised in a very strong Christian home. My dad had a very deep faith. He also had a very powerful work ethic, and I learned a lot from him about working hard and about working hard with Jesus at the center of his life. Um, my mother was the most loving person that I've ever encountered. She just loved people, loved chatting with people, loved getting to know people. And I've often said that I went to medical school because of my dad's influence, and I became a family physician because of my mom's influence and the way she conducted her relationships. And I'm starting to ramble. I'm telling some stories, but the most important story I'm going to tell today is the story of a guy I met in college by the name of Tom. I'm not going to give last names here, but there was a guy I met as a freshman in college named Tom. And Tom was also very much a committed Christian. He was a couple years older than me. And when I was a freshman in the dorms, he was an upperclassman. He was also for lack of a better term, a man's man. I mean, he was broad-shouldered and burly. He was a country boy. He wore flannel shirts and work boots and liked to hunt, liked to fish, could play football, take a pounding with the best of us. There was not a shred of weakness anywhere to be seen in Tom, and Tom was also a very committed Christian. And Tom and his roommate Jim, living in the dorms in this state university where living in the dorms meant drinking and partying and romancing and every kind of adolescent release that you can imagine took place in these dorms. And yet Tom and Jim made a strategic decision to live in the dorms for the purpose of being mentors to younger guys living in the dorms. And I remember Tom and Jim used to have a nightly, I guess a nighttime prayer at 11 o'clock every night in their dorm room. And it was wide open to anybody who wanted to come, and everybody knew that, if you're around at 11 o'clock at night and you want to pray, come to Tom and Jim's room, and they will, they'll pray with everybody. And that was kind of a nice way to put the ending on the day and get relaxed and focused and ready to get some sleep. That really meant a lot to me, and Tom may not know how much that meant to me. He was a guy living in the dorms, but his courage to put himself out there in a situation where all kinds of other lifestyles were available to him, and the peer pressure would pull you in all kinds of different directions. Tom was a guy who made a big difference in my life, and I have always appreciated that. And to this day, I am a big fan of campus ministry. College is a time when kids are very impressionable. They're away from home and family for the first time. There's all kinds of influences available, whether it would be the party scene, whether it would be chasing girls, whether it would be just getting so focused on your academic performance that all other spiritual considerations go by the wayside. Whatever the situation, it's available to you in college, and having campus ministries available to influence the lives of young people who are just hitting freedom for the first time is something that meant a lot to me. In the present day, I do have a guy who comes to me for mentoring. He approached me and asked me if I would serve that role for him. We work together, and he is a wonderful guy, and we meet together on a regular basis. And next week, we're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of what mentoring is like. But, mentoring this younger guy helps me keep on my toes spiritually. If I'm going to have a mentoring session with him, then I need to be consistent in my time in the Word and my time in prayer and praying for his needs and looking for insights into his situation, as well as keeping up with my own spiritual walk. I also have an older guy that I meet with on a regular basis, and we spend time in the Word together. We pray together. He is a man of great wisdom and experience, and it is a privilege to spend that time as well. So, two great experiences. One last story before I close with a couple of other ideas. But when I was still in my academic career, I had started to look at opportunities to move to a new career path and pursue my passion for medical informatics, application of computer technology to medicine. And I had applied for what I thought was a really exciting job opportunity. This was back in 2008, and I went through an interview process. I was very, very excited about this opportunity, but after months and months and months of interviewing, there was no job offer, and I was profoundly disappointed. And I had been teaching, in medical school, and I had a young medical student who was assigned to me at this point in time, who went to my church, and my pastor pulled me aside and said, Dave, I'm really disappointed that you didn't get this job opportunity. I know how excited you were about this. And this medical student whose name was Mike, my pastor said to me, Mike is watching you, and how you were responding to this is, Mike is observing you, and the fact that you have responded to this with an outlook that, this isn't the direction that God wanted you to go in life, and continue to pray for God's direction in your life and your career. This young guy is watching you. And I hadn't really thought about it at the time, because I was really thinking about the job and the family and where we were going to go next, and teaching Mike in the clinic from day to day. But when the pastor pulled me aside and said, "Man, Mike is watching you," that to me was just a powerful lesson in mentoring and role modeling, and how even when we don't know it, we are modeling our walk with Christ. So I put that out there to challenge you all. One last thing I want to mention is the notion of accountability partners. This is a kind of a mentoring relationship, but it's more peer-to-peer. Having an accountability partner in your life is also very valuable. Sometimes this can be very issue focused. It could be an exercise buddy, somebody to keep you accountable to your exercise. It could be a spiritual issue. If you're fighting alcoholism, pornography addiction, some sinner in your life, and you have people that you're relating to on a peer-to-peer level, that can also be very empowering. As the word says, iron sharpens iron. So there may be points in your life where an accountability partner would be a good thing to have. Leaders who are leading together can be accountable to each other. And I've had some great experiences with those types of relationships as well. So if there is a specific issue that you are struggling with spiritually, maybe you need an older mentor to guide you through that. Maybe you need an accountability partner to struggle through that together. Maybe you need both. But that is a special category I wanted to mention. And finally, I'll close by reflecting on the same questions that I posed last week. Who do you have in your life? Do you have a Paul, a mentor? Do you have a Barnabas, a fellow co-worker? Do you have a Timothy, a young person that you're bringing your life into? Who are you accountable to? What are you doing personally and professionally to be a Christian role model and a mentor to those around you. And finally, a new question: is there a mentoring opportunity that God is pointing you to? And again, next time we talk about mentoring, we will get into some of the nuts and the bolts. But I just want to leave you with that challenge. Therefore, as 1 Thessalonians says, encourage one another and build up one another, just as you are also doing. So that is a lot of rambling today, a lot of personal reflections, but a lot of memories that have been very important to me, that things that God has provided to me in my life over the years. Thank you for taking time to listen today, and feel free to share your experiences. If you want to have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those in the comments box below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and that will promote this video in the YouTube algorithms for folks who may be looking for similar inspiration. If you want to hear more from the channel, hit the subscribe button, and you'll get notified whenever new content is posted to my channel. Again, thank you so much to everybody who listens from week to week, those who comment, and those who provide encouragement to me from week to week to keep doing these videos. And so we will talk to you again soon. And until next week, God bless you all, and go in peace.